Frankenstein's monster was defeated time and time again. Turns out being a lightning-struck assortment of body parts does wonders for your durability. But not all of these endings are equal, running the gamut from uninspired stinkers to one of the greatest finales in horror history. Without further ado, let's rank the deaths of Frankenstein. Number 8. House of Dracula. I have an affection for the later entries in the Universal Monsters catalogue, but they had a severe Frankenstein problem. His decline begins with Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, and gets progressively lackluster from there. The iconic character seemed to lose any character entirely. He was reduced to a lumbering mute zombie, destined only to be revived in the final 5 minutes of a film, and creating little impact. Hey, at least that meant Universal could slap him on the poster. The monster's death in House of Dracula is the sad culmination of this devolution. He awakes and aggressively confronts Larry Talbot. However, Talbot outwits him with a simple shimmy behind a shelf. Frankenstein wildly destroys the lab for no reason besides that's what he did in previous films. It comes across as lazy. His whole inclusion really feels like an afterthought, and this derivative weightless finale all but confirms it. This is a shame because there was a potentially interesting angle on the table. Talbot and Frankie had beef stemming back several films, but you don't feel that at all. More significantly, Talbot had just been successfully cured of his werewolf curse, so this specific battle between the two featured a major power imbalance that should have formed some really tense stakes. No longer the Wolfman, now he could be the underdog. There was also a chance for the studio to capture the tragedy of the first two Frankenstein movies, with Talbot finally getting his wish to die, but so soon after finally being cured. These later films did embrace a sillier tone, so perhaps it's my fault for expecting darker or more symbolic material from it. Number 7. Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. I was in two minds about including this film on the list, but screw it, why not? Universal themselves like to count these movies. After a comical chase, the Frankenstein monster stands alone on a pier. The structure is set alight, and the monster burns before falling through into the water. Seeing as this stems from a parody movie, it can't be judged too harshly, but yeah, it's fairly standard, yet strangely lacking in humour. Compare it to the dual demise of Dracula and the Wolfman, which tickles me every single time. Overall, it's just fine, but the chase that precedes it is good fun. Number 6. House of Frankenstein. This death always seemed more suited to a Lon Chaney Jr. mummy movie. The monster is revived by Boris Karloff's sinister scientist, Niemann, and quickly develops an allegiance to him. He chucks a jilted hunchback out of a window, as you do, then tries to carry his new master to safety. A crowd of angry villagers block their path and set fire to the marshes. Still a major pyrophobe, the monster evades the flames by heading deeper into the swamp.
Quicksand! Quicksand! Not this way! Quicksand!
Ignoring warnings from Niemann, admittedly not Karloff's best line deliveries,
Quicksand!
the pair ultimately succumb to quicksand. I appreciate how Frankenstein's fears are used against him in a different way, aka he's not just trapped in a burning building this time. It is a slow and awful way to go, but that means squat to an eternally living monster. Therefore, the real horror belongs all to Niemann, and if you take our behind-the-scenes knowledge into account, there is something weirdly beautiful watching Karloff and his most famous character both sinking to the grave together. Number 5. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman by trying to clobber the fur off the jumpy little shit. In modern times, the choreography may leave something to be desired, but there is a giddy joyfulness at play. The two battle it out in a lab that would become a serious flood risk should anything happen to the dam above. Good thing there's no drunken villagers wielding dynamite wandering about. What the dickens?
Break the dam!
The river is released and makes swift work of the entire building. The model work is charming, and in general, it's pure fun spectacle. As an aside, it's noteworthy that the destruction comes at the hand of a single villager, as opposed to the typical pitchfork-waving crowd, who this time are shocked bystanders. There are still negatives holding this scene back, of course. The shot of the water collapsing through the roof is fantastic, but there are no further interior shots that follow it. I feel like each monster deserved their close-up, succumbing to their wet fate, something akin to Neiman's last gasp. It's a minor quibble, a nitpick if you will, but the sequence has always felt incomplete to me in that regard. A broader complaint linked to that would be that their conflict and defeat feels rushed, even by old B-movie standards. Number 4. The Ghost of Frankenstein. This death is the first in this ranking to include some strong narrative and character thematics, which really helps morph a good ending into a great one. One of my favourite characters in the series, Igor, has successfully schemed his way into having his brain transferred into the body of Frankenstein's monster. Unlike the intended brain transplant recipient, Igor does not share the monster's blood type. Ooh, a delightful twist as the evil villain's sight and senses falter through incompatibility. Igor's endless trickery has finally been mirrored back at him in the worst way possible. He destroys the place in a literal blind rage and pays the ultimate price. It's a slight repetition on the original's fire motif, but that is fitting. The monster endures its famous feared fate, but this time, crucially by its own hand. Number 3. Son of Frankenstein. Ghost of Frankenstein wasn't the first time Igor died, no. In the previous entry, he brought a hammer to a Basil Rathbone gunfight. Naturally, he perished. The monster finds the corpse, and we watch his heartbreak and subsequent rage in full melodramatic pizzazz. In one brief moment, Karloff wrings more emotion from this character than all of the other actors combined. No surprise really that his trilogy of movies would dominate the top 3 places of this ranking. A tense sequence initiates as the monster kidnaps grandson of Frankenstein and takes him over to Chekhov's molten sulfur pit. Memories fly back to the accidental drowning of the young girl. Had the monster now been through so much that he could intentionally repeat that suffering? On first viewing, given how dark the previous 2 films had been, I was genuinely on the edge of my seat, watching this beast I'd grown to love, guiding an innocent, trusting child to its apparent peril. Thankfully for all involved, and the monster's character arc, he cannot follow through. Still, it's not a good look to be holding the kid by the pit, so all hell breaks loose. History repeats itself as Frankie rips off the inspector's arm for a second time and tries to use it against him. Then, oh my god, JR, it's Rathbone out of nowhere from the top rope! Yeah, the guy goes full Errol Flynn and knocks the monster into the explosive pit below. A triumphant example of spectacle that retains enough of the first 2 movies' suspense and character to form a very solid finale. Number 2. Frankenstein. Classic would be an understatement when describing the ending of the original film. The monster hauls his maker to the top of a windmill while being hounded by the enraged villagers. The intense standoff between the two is worthy of displacement enough, concluding with the spectacular moment of Frankie tossing Henry over the side. Ooh. With the monster now isolated, the villagers set fire to the building and watch as the monster helplessly falls prey to their handiwork. Not only is this set piece a standout among the other Universal monsters of its day, it's essentially timeless. This is largely thanks to Karloff himself. The fear and panic he displays, waving his arms, anxiously drumming against the wood, and of course, his wrenching, continuous yelps. It's so effective. The sequence, which importantly takes its time unlike later monster movies, finishes with a sustained image of the burning windmill atop the hill. Frankenstein's monster is defeated, but this is in no way a victory. That last image stays with you, perfectly encapsulating the drama as a whole. So much so, I always gloss over the epilogue because my mind remains fixated on the fiery carnage. Timeless and tragic, who would have thought that a sequel could top it? Number 1. Bride of Frankenstein. Much like the movie itself, the ending to Bride of Frankenstein is a superb extension of the original. The action doubles down, the emotion doubles down, there's double the mad scientist, and double the monsters. Frankenstein's monster has spent the entire film developing himself and his need for companionship, while the entire world constantly beats him down. At long last, he meets the bride, believing he will have someone who will truly understand him and like him. Instead, his pure offering of friendship is instantly rebutted with a terrifying scream. We've all been there, Frankie, we've all been there. The straw of Frankenstein has broken the camel of Frankenstein's back. The monster orders Henry to leave, to live a happy life, water under the bridge there, and forces the rest to stay. He utters the immortal words,
We belong dead.
and self-destructs the lab. This is easily the best combo of emotion and action, delivering on all fronts magnificently. It's also some of Karloff's very best work, and again just makes me lament how lame and limp the monster became in the later movies. There is one minor flaw, and it's something I did not notice on first watch. 2 shots show the internal destruction, and in both, Henry is clearly visible, despite the shots being intercut with Henry and his wife escaping below. The story goes that parts of the ending were reshot to account for a happier conclusion, and Henry was supposed to perish too. However, the big money shots were too costly to repeat, so they were kept as is. After surviving the first film via reshoots too, Henry narrowly avoided death twice. Lucky bastard. It's hard to say if I prefer Henry dying here or not. I go back and forth on it. Otherwise, yes, it's still one of my favourite endings to any horror film. Well, those are my takes. Let's hear your rankings in the comments below. I presume 1931 and Bride will be taking the top 2 places either way, but who knows?